It's a warm welcome to another edition of the Matchbook NFL Betting Podcast. I am joined, if you're watching us live right now, you can see an avatar in the bottom left. Brad Allen is still alive. He's just having a really, really bad hair day. But look at his hair in that avatar. Look at his hair. It's absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Defamatory, Sully. My hair is perfect, but I'm having camera issues, not hair issues.
Camera issues, but look, we will drive on regardless. You'll still be able to hear the voice of Brad Allen. And of course, if you're on the podcast right now, it won't make a tack of difference. Top right of your screen, if you're joining us now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, is Mr. Adam Chernoff. On the bottom right, Mr. Drew Dinsick. And gentlemen, let's start on some reflections from last weekend. San Francisco, -7. Consensus, we got that right. But let's call it, guys. We're not getting the Titans right. Adam Chernoff, start with you here. Titans, what are we going to do with these Titans? We just can't seem to get them right. And I'm afraid if we jump on them this weekend, they'll probably lose.
Well, they are going to lose this weekend.
Hey, there you go.
So that's fine. They're going to lose by a lot as well. I look at that game, and it was more about what the Titans did on 3rd and 4th down, which we mentioned here in the video last week. If they could potentially get it to 3rd and 4th down, that's where they have a chance. For some reason, this defense for the course of the season has played up on 3rd and 4th down, and they forced Baltimore into 4 4th downs, typically where the Ravens are extremely good, and stopped them on each one. But let's not ignore the fact that the Ravens punted once the entire game. So when we talk about the Titans' defensive effort that potentially stepped up, they gave up more than 530 yards. They gave up 500 plus to Lamar alone between the running and passing game. This was a defense that got beat early. They got beat often, and they managed to come away with the win with some timely play on 3rd and 4th down. So does it look the same against KC this week? We'll probably break that down in just a second.
So every week, guys, I obviously have to come up with the podcast title, and I tried to get a bit creative to kind of get things going a bit. But let's look at what I put up for last week. I'll share it now on the screen. Well, you can see there, Ravens flock to destroy Titans. So there you go. We were absolutely cursed before we even got to the game. So there you go. It's just one of those things. Drew Dinsick, I listened to the Deep Dive podcast on Monday on my way back home from work. And I'll be honest, mate, just listen to your general tone. I was kind of pretty much depressed with you, and I didn't have that bad a weekend.
Well, it's so, yeah, okay. I guess my overall attitude was, I think, kind of just melancholy because the season's winding down. You know, we only have 3 games left. All of my futures are pretty much out of it now. So, you know, and I looked at the board, and my early look at the lines was like, you know, these are all right. Like, I don't see an easy and obvious way to bet. And so basically I'm kind of, you know, I was kind of going through sort of the melancholy that comes with the end of the season. And on top of that, I had a pretty poor day on Sunday. So it was a disappointing weekend to say the least. The Titans, they got my Ravens good. They put together an outlier performance. It was a perfect situational football from whistle to whistle by them. They made every key play that they needed to make. I thought their aggressiveness early was so timely and so, you know, it was so on the nose. Getting the 4th down stop, going right over the top to try to secure that 2-touchdown lead made all the difference for how the rest of that game played out. And you know, this is the second time in 3 years that a backup quarterback has just taken my lunch money week in, week out here, coming down the stretch. Nick Foles did it to me with the Eagles 2 years ago. I think I had the Falcons lost, and I had the Vikings and lost, and I had the Pats and lost. So this is a little deja vu for this Titans run here.
Yeah, just with the Ravens, I got a sense, guys, that I think they just panicked too early. They chased it. They made Lamar into a quarterback that he's not. They made him into kind of a full-on passing quarterback, and it did not suit his game. I thought hindsight is great, of course, but there was just so much time left in that game. And you look at the Chiefs, what they did with 24-0 down, they just stuck to their game plan. Now, obviously, massive difference. The Chiefs are a passing team. They can catch up on you. They can get into a lead, but it just wasn't happening for the Ravens. Prof, unlucky with Seattle. I thought the 2-point conversion there at the end was a bit of a killer.
Yeah, it's just coaching again. I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get now, and it's just, I guess it's cognitive dissonance sometimes because you see it every week, and I find it hard to understand how Pete Carroll can have this team and how he can continue to coach the way he does. Just leaving Russell to get down 21 points before he lets him start throwing the ball.
I was having to think about this during the game, Prof. What if you hypnotized Brian Schottenheimer and made him believe at the start of the game that you're 21 points down and just let Russell do his thing?
It's so frustrating. There's been a lot of articles already this week just calling for the heads of those two coaches. And they should go, because Carroll's meant to be this defensive guru who wants to run the ball. The defense is crap. He's got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's just burying him, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, just one of those things. Right, guys, before we get to this weekend's games, if you missed it last week, we won it last year, the Smart Betting Club Best Betting Podcast in 2019. We are nominated again this year, thanks to no small part of these three gentlemen here and their fantastic insights each week. If you do enjoy our podcast, please, it'll take 2 minutes, please give us a vote. You can check it out in the Team Matchbook pinned tweet or the Matchbook Pod pinned tweet even, and it will also be in the bio for this podcast. Right, let's move on to this weekend's games. First up, Tennessee Titans. Those Titans, are we finally going to get them right? 4.05, as you can see on screen now on the money line. Kansas City Chiefs 1.32. Main line here is 7.5. The Titans are 1.91 currently. 52.5 is the total. Right. Adam, do you want to start with this one? Because I'm not totally sure. We need to get these Titans right at some stage. But look, Adam, it's hard not to be impressed with these Chiefs. You've been on these Chiefs for a while now. You're pretty bullish a couple of weeks ago that they were the best bet to win the Super Bowl. And let's be honest, last Sunday isn't going to change your mind on that.
No, it is not. And we were just talking before the show. Like, they were down 24-0 in the first quarter, which for any other team in the league is death. And there was conversations going back and forth during the game that Whale and I were involved in. But they were down 24-0. By the middle of the third quarter, the conversation switched from can they come back, do they have a chance, to, okay, what are they going to open next week against the team that they end up playing in the Tennessee Titans? So, it was not even a case of this game where usually when something like this happens, you get viewed as like, oh, that was a really lucky win or what have you. It was just such a dominating performance for the 3.5 chunk quarters for the Kansas City Chiefs that whole conversation got ignored, and it wasn't even that big of a collapse by the Houston Texans by the end of it, because everyone just looked at this as a dominating Chiefs performance. Obviously, when you blow a 24-0 lead, that's enormous, but you have to wonder what that game looks like if there's not those two drops on the first two drives. I believe one of them on the second drive could have gone for a touchdown. Kelsey dropped the first one. That would have extended the drive, but this could have been much worse if not for the muffed punt and for the other defensive team touchdown the block punt. This could have been a much different game on how it played out. But look, in this game specifically, I'm looking KC for the full game. I'm looking Kansas City for the first half as well. This is a spot where a lot of people are going to reference that game earlier in the season. And I think rightfully so, right? It's week 10, wasn't that far long ago. But we look at that game and what's different. Patrick Mahomes was playing that game. It was his first game back off of that knee injury, which I think when we all saw it on Thursday night, we thought he was going to be gone for a very long time. And it was surprising how quickly he was able to return from that. And it even surprised doctors and initial team reports, too, how quickly he was able to return. So he was playing less than 100%, far from it. He still went for 440 yards in the air and got really whatever he wanted against his Tennessee Titans team, as did Derrick Henry, right? The conversation this week, Derrick Henry is going to run all over this Kansas City defense. And he did in the first game, 180-plus yards. He's going to do the same thing again, and the Chiefs are going to let him do the same thing again, because we've seen in the previous two games where Derrick Henry's set historic records and what he's been able to do on the ground against the Ravens and against the Patriots. Against New England, scored 14 points on drives. There was the defensive return on the interception at the end of the game, but as great as that performance was, it resulted in 14 points. Against the Baltimore Ravens, as great as that performance was, drives where he was involved resulted in 14 points. This is the proving everyone who's for the last number of years said that passing is far more efficient than rushing. You get the most pass-heavy team against the Titans, who have become the most run-heavy team in the NFL, certainly in the playoffs. We're among the top 5 heaviest in run rate during the last 6 weeks of the regular season. But this is like the ultimate matchup between stats and then people who watch the game and jump to conclusions about the run. So that sets up extremely well. But again, how is this secondary going to compete with Kansas City? If you thought the Texans had trouble matching up, this is a Titans secondary. Again, they allowed 48% of passes to grade successful during the regular season. That was one of the 8th worst marks in the NFL, and that came against the 9th easiest schedule of opposing passers. Mahomes already tore them up for 400-plus yards in the first game. We saw Lamar last week go for over 500 yards for himself alone, and now you're getting the Chiefs fully healthy at home with the venue switch. This is the Titans' 4th consecutive road game. I don't know if a team has played 4 straight. There's probably another playoff situation. I have no idea how those numbers look, but you have to wonder. We talk a lot about 3 consecutive road games and the deficit that puts teams in. Now we're looking at game number 4. I just think that this is a one-sided blowout in favor of Kansas City, first half and the full game. I'll take them both.
Jordinsik, where do we start with Derrick Henry? 96 carries past 3 games. And it used to be the old adage of defense. You stack the box, you put 8 or 9 guys in there. But Baltimore, to my mind, did that, and they still can't stop them. So, it's so hard to handicap this guy at the moment, isn't it? I think a general look-ahead line about 2 weeks ago, if this was the tie, was about 10. It's dropped 2.5 points to 7.5 now. But where do we go with Derrick Henry here? Because, the obvious play here is the Chiefs, but he is the ultimate X factor with the Titans.
I feel like a lot of the and this isn't to disagree with your statement, because you're right. He's the X factor, and his performance in the playoffs has been unbelievable. But a lot of kind of the commentary around Derrick Henry, I feel like, has been missing the point a little bit. The Titans have done some aggressive things on offense early in these games to generate a lead. And then with the lead, they've been able to lean on Henry to just completely wipe out the clock. That has really put pressure on the opposing offenses to be perfect. Then, obviously Ravens were unable to do that. I think a lot of especially in that Baltimore game, a lot of Henry's production came kind of after they really had, 60, 70% win probability. It wasn't really like, he was kind of the deciding factor in that game. I think a lot more their ability to kind of come up with key stops and their ability to, make the perfect plays when they needed them. Guy landing on a butt cheek and getting a touchdown. Guy, having their third wide receiver get open over the top was just, it was perfect situational football. And Derrick Henry, I think Adam's point was fair. I don't think the Chiefs necessarily sell out to stop him in this one. I don't think you say, "Hey, Tannehill, we dare you to beat us." Obviously, in the first quarter of that game against Baltimore, Tannehill proved, yeah, he can make some throws. He's not going to, light up the stat sheet. He's not going to put, scoreboard pressure on you from, just from a passing output standpoint. But you ask him to do a couple of things in a given game, he's going to do them. So, my initial read on this game overall was, man, we're going to have this total is, I was on the under last week and I got burned unbelievably badly. That wasn't,
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you got to own
it. From Jump Street, that thing was cooked. Blown coverage by the Chiefs in the first drive is what's going on with this team? And then they spot them 24 points. That turns the Chiefs into this aggressive, unlocks their true potential offensively, and so that was over before it started. And I'm shocked that just from a neutral handicapping standpoint, this Titans offense I have worse than the Houston offense in terms of potential scoring output. And the Titans defense, I think, is a little better than Houston's defense. So I'm shocked that we're looking at 52.5. Everything in my core is saying this is another underplay, but just having gotten burned so badly and knowing that the potential of this Chiefs team is putting up 40 points is tough to really get involved. I may look for a Chiefs team total over at 30. I may end up backing the Chiefs on the handicap, but right now I haven't made a play on this game. And a lot of what the Titans are doing have whiffs of the Patriots' first ever run back in 2002. They're just getting every freaking break, and the whole locker room is bought into it. Vrabel is coaching his ass off. Art Smith He's coaching his ass off.
Hell of a coordinator. Always said it. Always said it.
Yeah. Why? I don't know why he didn't get a look for a head coaching job. I mean, what are we hiring Joe Judge, special teams coach from the Patriots? Obviously, Art Smith is the best coordinator in the league. So yeah, no, in reality, Eric Bieniemy should have gotten a more serious look, in my opinion, but that's beside the point.
The Titans kind of have that look at team of destiny, don't they? I mean, like, if you look back to the previous years, one of those teams that gets hot, it just comes through the wild card. There's no bye weeks. Every week is a must win, and they just have the sniff of that kind of team, Drew, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And, so from a fan rooting standpoint, from someone who is excited about football and wants one final good game and kind of wash the taste of last year's Super Bowl out of my mouth, I desperately want the Chiefs to move on. I want Andy Reid to get his first Super Bowl. Yeah. I want all the Chiefs backers to be rewarded here because they made solid plays. But the Titans are spooky.
Brad Allen's avatar. My apologies. Brad Allen's avatar.
It looks like James Bond.
It looks a bit like James Bond. He just has that look, doesn't he? Yeah. If you're watching us now live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, let us know what you think about Brad Allen's avatar. Brad Allen, talk to me, mate. What are you thinking here? Because, I mean, we look at the Chiefs, even if they lost the time possession battle last week, they can score so fast. They can hurt you in so many different ways. Any other week, Prof, if I told you you're laying 7.5, would the Chiefs still this hot right now, you'd be backing them, surely.
Yes. So I think the Titans they're just running hot. So a lot of it's red zone efficiency, I think, which we've spoken about a lot before, that generally your red zone efficiency should regress to how good you are as an offense. So just for example, the Ravens this year scored touchdowns 67% of the time in the red zone. So 67% touchdown rate. But the Titans, their last 3 weeks are 8 for 8 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And then in the postseason, opposing teams are 1 for 7 in converting red zone chances to a touchdown. So they are running incredibly hot there. And there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that will continue. And then the Chiefs look like they match up very nicely. The Titans are probably what you call a bit of a pass funnel, as in they're stout up front, top 10 run defense, and then the weaknesses in the back end, as I know Adam's talked about a lot in the past. And the Chiefs are going to be perfectly happy to throw all over them. So if you filter early downs, first and second down, and first 3 quarters, pass rate, the Chiefs are by far the highest in the league. They will let Mahomes throw it on early downs, which is when you want to throw it. You don't want to be forced to throw it on third down. They're 64% pass rate. Miami's on 60%. And then the personnel is just a huge edge, Casey, as Adam said. There was a note in there was an Athletic article where they interviewed a sort of unnamed coach, and he went, the Texans did it all wrong. They forced the Chiefs to pass, and then they just passed all game. And it's like, how stupid are NFL coaches that they know that that's optimal? He's just said, this is how we don't want to be attacked. This was a defensive coach. We don't want the Chiefs throwing 80% on us. Well, if you know that, why don't you go tell your offensive coach to do that? But anyway, so the Chiefs are most likely to do that. And, they've had their scare, and then they gave Damian Williams like 2 touches for the first 3 quarters there. I'm hoping that will continue. And if it does, I think the Chiefs score what they want.
Yeah, I can't see the Chiefs coming into this running game. I mean, guys, if you look at it, when we were watching that game on Sunday night, we were just thinking that, oh my gosh, 24-0 down, another Andy Reid special here, zero panic. I know this is a bit kind of narrative-y, but I mean, it almost seems that, look, they've got their fright, they've got their bad half out of it, bad quarter, let's be honest, it wasn't a bad half. And Drew, it just seems that maybe that's just out of the way now. They start hot, hopefully, on Sunday evening, and you look at this on paper, and the Chiefs are a better team, surely.
I would agree with that, and actually, I don't know about if they start hot though. I mean, I guess it is true that they may have unlocked their true potential for sure, but this is they had a full 2 weeks of rest. They had a pretty clear and we haven't even mentioned it as far as this handicap goes. This is the Titans' 4th road game in a row, 4th road game against a divisional title winner. Like this is a nasty stretch here, and you could entirely see the Titans come out flat because just the fatigue be building up here. But it's still there's still something that that is a little concerning about Andy Reid being able to completely carry this without any hiccups, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of warming up and talking myself into a first half under potentially, as opposed to taking the full game under, because I can entirely see the Titans flip flopping back to, okay, we're going to do a work against the Patriots here, and we're going to try to run the ball, keep Pat Mahomes on the sidelines, keep him cold, kind of emulate the Patriots game plan from the AFC title game last year.
Let me float this one to you, Adam Chernoff, quickly, just before we go off this game. The Texans won the time of possession battle 35-25 against the Chiefs last week. What have the Titans got to get here realistically to win this game, time possession-wise?
58.5 minutes.
All right, I love that one.
It's going to be tough.
Brad Allen, you wanted to come back in one more time there, mate.
Yeah, well, obviously we've been very pro-Chiefs here. I will say that the Titans probably will be able to run the ball very effectively again.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is performing it is elite at the minute, and obviously Henry is elite as well, and that is the weakness of the Chiefs. So I guess I would say the way they can win this is like what happened against the Ravens, but then they could just continue running the ball. But I would say that's their only advantage, but realistically, I would say you're clutching at straws. I just don't think they'll be able to stop the Chiefs.
What I do think, though, if you're back in my head, right, if you're backing the Titans this weekend, I don't think you're taking them on the spread. I think they're actually probably a better money line play, because if they win the game, they win the game. But I think if the Chiefs win, I think they cover. I just can't see it being, the Chiefs needing a last-second field goal to win this. Am I kind of overthinking that one, guys? Or it's just they seem like at 4.05, which is just over 3-1. That seems like if you're going to play them, that's probably the way to play them.
I don't know why someone would do something like that. Not back in Kansas City, but you probably have the way the playoffs have been going. We're seeing like either favorites run away with it or underdogs are getting the win outright. So you're on to something.
I don't know. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. The Jaguars were, lucky to make the playoffs. Blake Bortles captaining the ship
in Pittsburgh.
And they put up some amazing performance against Pittsburgh, going to Foxborough, and pretty similar price, if I remember correctly. And they were very much in that game. That was a shocker. Sometimes, in the same way that you can kind of work a kind of a motivational narrative around, the Chiefs have found their form and now they're going to just run the rest of the league ragged on the way to the Super Bowl title here. To a degree, like the Titans have some pretty serious juice right now. And, this is a horrible spot for them. Horrible situational spot. Third, fourth week in a row traveling, as I mentioned, and some unbelievable competition that they've faced. But, they're bought into this, and they're winning. They're winning all of the one-on-ones they need to win in the key moments of these games, and that can sometimes be the difference.
Prof, just very quickly, betting wise, attacking this. So if we look around right now, it's 7.5, but that's odds against 2.07. I'll just bring this back up on the screen a second, just have a quick look. So that's 2.07. We scroll down, -7 is a 1.9. Obviously, that might just get a bit bigger. What are you thinking there, Prof? I mean, it's obviously 7's being the key number there. You get a push if it lands on 7. What way would you be thinking about approaching this?
I would be going after that 1.07. We got 18 bags there to lay. Someone
there you go. Yeah.
Big time.
Good spot, Prof. Good spot.
Well,
18,000.
18,000 pounds. There you go. You can see it on screen
Wednesday.
right now at 2.07 on a Wednesday. Exactly, Prof. There you go.
So we're taking on some heavy hitters here, then I guess. But
Wow.
I like it.
Wow.
Yeah, guys, we got to get these. We got to get these Titans beat. By the way, just before I come off that, there is one.
Wow.
We have. There you go. The beauty of the exchange, Drew didn't say. The beauty of the exchange, man. But we have.
Are there any alternates above 7.5 up right now?
So 8 is still there.
9.5?
8 is there. 2.14 if we scroll down. 8.5, 2.16. They're probably, you've got 9 there, Profit 2.2, 538 pounds. 9.5, 2.24. Small bit of margin in those markets. I will say there's about 2% there at the moment. That will tighten up quite considerably, even 48 hours before kickoff. So plenty of alternates there. And I kind of, like we've touched on it there, I just get the sense if the Chiefs win, I think they win and they cover. I think they win by 10-14. That's my opinion. But I will say one thing, guys. We do have a very loyal listener there, Michael Tobin, who I understand is pretty much the only Irish fan, Titans fan in this country, in Ireland. So he did give us a bit of stick at the weekend. So Michael, if you are listening or watching today, mate, we do love the Titans. We just think it's a bad spot for them, and it's maybe not going to happen, but the very best of luck and all that. So let's move on, guys. Green Bay Packers.
His 18,000 in the queue there.
That could be. There you go. Yeah. Of course, gamble responsibly at all times. Let's have a look at the late game on Sunday night, the NFC title game. Green Bay Packers, as you can see on screen right now, 3.96 in the money line. San Francisco 49ers a 1.31. Green Bay Packers getting a 7.5 point start at 1.93. 45 is the total. That's slightly ticking up, guys. Brad, I'll start with you here first, mate. You look at the Packers after last weekend, and they get out to the fast start. We kind of predicted that. They script so well. They couldn't cover Davante Adams, the Seahawks defenses. But I mean, I'm still not impressed by the Packers. This is kind of another one. It's time to send these guys home, no?
It's very much time to send these guys home. But let's put Rodgers out to pasture. He's washed up. So Green Bay, they're the worst 13-3 team ever by Pythagorean expectation. Worst 13-3 team ever by Football Outsiders DVOA. They're down to 15th in weighted DVOA, so weighting the latter half of the season more strongly. They've been outgained yards per play, outgained in just yards, and they seem to have this trend where they go up early. Obviously, they've got this nice script. They've had it all season, and they just do nothing for like the second half. They kind of rely on the pass rush to win the game. They run the ball, win the game, and then if they need a third down at the end, they let Rodgers chuck it, a bit like last week. And I just don't think that's going to work this week, because the 49ers are a proper team. They're I think they might be Super Bowl favourites. I think the big matchup that I can see would be the 49ers run game against the Packers run D. So, we saw last week that the 49ers just did what they wanted on the ground against a very good run defense. The Vikings are 9th best this year by run defense DVOA. Green Bay's down at 23rd. And they still ran the ball 47 times last week. And if you kind of... the first time these two teams played was the worst game of Aaron Rodgers' career, I think. He was about two yards per pass. He did lose his right tackle, Brian Bulaga, 9 snaps into that one. But then San Francisco didn't have D Ford. And we gave the numbers last week, how much more effective they've been with D Ford on the field. I think the Niners are also well equipped to take away Davante Adams. Yeah. They've got Richard Sherman, who's been one of the best corners this year. They should put him on him. And
that's quite interesting. Sorry, just propping up. I was looking, next gen stats came out when that week 12 game. Davante Adams lined up against Sherman on 16 of 35 routes. He got 1 catch for 7 yards. So, I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer to put Sherman on Adams there.
Is that bad?
Yeah.
It's not great.
Rodgers went for 104 yards on 33 attempts, and they were outgained by like 5 yards a play, which is, I know we don't want to read too much into it, but that is just full domination. I guess the argument, I don't want to speak for the other guys, the argument against San Francisco would be the Green Bay pass rush is the strength of the team again, and that's probably the weakest area of San Francisco's offense. The pass blocking is about 18th by PFF grade, so that might be the edge. But I just think they'll be able to run it all over them, to be honest.
Drew Dinsick, what are you thinking with this one? I mean, I kind of came into this recording thinking that, I'll be honest, I love the 49ers in this spot. I think that they're not the Packers don't match up against them well at all. I think San Francisco, their defensive front are probably going to have a bit of a field day here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Brad's handicap kind of right in line with mine on this one. I don't give the Packers a ton of respect in terms of their ability to get a win here. I think the line is reasonable. I liked it a lot better at 7.5, obviously. But there's not really a clear and obvious matchup advantage in favor of the Packers on offense here. I don't really know how they're scoring, to keep up with this San Francisco offense in this one. This could be, an awful lot of, this could very well be a replay of what we saw in the regular season, just because we haven't seen the Packers really mature, grow, expand at all as a team, since that point. And the Niners are healthier on defense than they were even then. So this, I really don't know how this doesn't turn into just a rerun of that, just one-sided affair. I guess I will say going back to the Seahawks Packers game and some of the frustrating decisions that were made by the Seahawks in that one, like they very much committed to stopping the run. They felt like we're going to stop Aaron Jones and that's how we're going to win this one. And so, they gave single coverage to Davante Adams, who's one of the best route runners, if not the best route runner in all of the NFL. He was getting 4 and 5 yards of separation on every obvious passing down. It was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, put 2 hats on that guy. What are you doing? You don't have guys that can one-on-one with Davante Adams. I don't know that Sherman can do it for the full game. He's obviously playing at a level that I didn't think was possible this season as it is. And maybe he could carry that on and be a single guy that can stop the Packers, stop Davante Adams. But the Niners, their front seven, their speed on the linebackers, I think is going to be able to neutralize Aaron Jones very effectively, which means this really comes down to if the Packers are going to score, if they're going to move balls, if they're going to extend drives, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers is going to have to make plays to his second, third, and fourth receiving options. And that's been really, really tough for him this season. I don't know how he's going to be able to sustain, maybe they get a nice start to this game like we've seen in seasons past, and there's a good opportunity to jump on the Niners live at a cheap price. Maybe Jimmy G has that performance from the Niners last week against the Vikings, even though we were all kind of confirmed with our sentiment on that. Jimmy G kind of had a little bit of an uneven performance. He threw some pretty bad balls. They could have scored
11 completions. Yeah.
11. Yeah. It was a pretty telltale kind of playoff debutant performance. It wasn't shocking. And if he's got a little nerves early in this game, if he turns it over, if he spots the Packers 24 points like the Chiefs did to the Texans last week, then the Niners are going to be in some trouble. But I would say if this turns into, the Niners can put a little bit of scoreboard pressure on the Packers, force Aaron Rodgers to get it done through the air to his second, third, and fourth receiving weapons, then I think the Niners win and cover pretty comfortably here. I think the right way to attack this is probably Niners team total over. I'll get into that more when we get to our best bets, I guess, because that's the only thing that I'm like really itching to fire on this week. Because the Niners offense and their passing game specifically matches up so perfectly with the Packers secondary. The Niners do such a brilliant job pre-snap of identifying coverages and exposing, what you're doing from a coverage standpoint, which is really, the Packers try to disguise that a bit, but Shanahan's going to have that sniffed out, like, within a few seconds, of lining up on every passing down. And at that point, it's just like, okay, here's the coverage. Here's our first read. Jimmy G, make this pass. And if it's a first read strike offense, precision offense for the Niners on Sunday, then good night. They're going to score 31 and they're going to put this team to bed pretty comfortably.
Adam Chernoff, I don't know how much you put into this, but I look at another aspect here, another storyline, and it's coaching matchups. Okay, so we just from the 49ers perspective offensively, Kyle Shanahan, he goes against Mike Pettin, the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator. The other side, we've got Matt LaFleur calling the plays for the Packers, and he's going against Robert Saleh. And I think there's a distinctive coaching matchup, an advantage here for the 49ers. What are you thinking? And do you ever put much stock into that when you're handicapping a game?
Well, I was going to ask you guys, I had 2 questions going into this that I think would be interesting, is if you had to power rank the remaining 4 coaches and the remaining 4 quarterbacks, how would that play out for you guys?
Okay, so we'll start with coaches. Drew, you want to have a cut off this first?
Well, Art Smith, number 1.
We talking about coordinators and head coaches.
Head coaches.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. He gets number 1 over all
everyone. Yeah.
No, I think number 1 would have to be Shanahan. In terms of just overall scheme and and top to bottom in-game decision making, I would put Shanahan 1, Andy Reid 2, Vrabel 3, and LaFleur 4.
Brad?
Okay.
Shanahan's the best coach of the lot, isn't he? I think he seems to play to the game situation a little bit. When they're favourites, they're a bit more conservative. When they're underdogs, he's a bit more willing to roll the dice on 4th down, which is Reed obviously is a great schemer, but he gets a bit conservative and stuff. So I'll
Are
give
we-
Shanny the edge.
Are we not going to dissing Mike Vrabel a small bit here? Because he's probably doing a bit, he's not got that much, but he's probably doing more with less right now.
I think they're just running hot. I mean, obviously they're very stout in the trenches. They're probably the only team that beat up the Ravens all year. Well, but is that the coach? They're probably building his image. Sort of rough and tumble, yada yada. He'll chop his penis off for a Super Bowl win. But is he a great schemer? I don't really know yet.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with Kyle Shannon one, and Adam will come back to you in a second. But I mean, you look at that, and George Kittle at 16 yards reception last week, and I'll tell you, and they still put a ton of points on the Vikings. Adam, what are you thinking on that one?
Well, yeah, so I would agree with you guys. I'd go Shanahan 1. I would go Reed 2, but I would have LaFleur 3 and then Vrabel 4. But what I find interesting about this spot, and I think everyone, Brad and Whale, have made very good cases for San Francisco. There's not really a whole lot I can add to that. So Matt LaFleur had his conference call yesterday, and he said that he's spending the next 2 to 3 days revisiting that first meeting to try and understand what happened and how to adjust within it. And if you go back and look at how that game was handicapped for the most part, there was a lot of late money on San Francisco, but part of the reason that there was some intrigue with Green Bay as a 3.5-point underdog, and it kept coming back to 3, was because if we're matching these two teams up, the Packers are number 1 in pass block win rate. And I think there's the Aaron Rodgers factor as an underdog that will always draw attention within the market. But there was sort of a hope that with that number 1 pass blocking O-line, and then you have Aaron Jones in the backfield against the 49ers defense, which is a lot weaker against the run than they are against the pass. There was sort of a small little bit of a construct for a handicap coming in there and why you support Green Bay. Obviously, they end up losing by 30. So a lot of those cases proved wrong, for lack of a better term, in that specific game, seeing that outcome. But you wonder how it looks the second time around. And the 49ers have played, obviously, everyone in the NFC West twice this season. And if we look at the veteran quarterbacks, so Goff and Wilson, in the first game, we saw Jared Goff 1.7 yards per pass and a 29% success rate. Then they get to see this defense a second time. Jumps all the way up to 7.0 yards per pass and a 47% success rate. We see Russell Wilson in the first game, 4.8 yards per pass and a 48% success rate. That jumps up to 5.4 yards per pass and a 51% success rate. Aaron Rodgers, 1.9 yards per pass and a 29% success rate. So very similar to what Jared Goff put up in the first game. But we saw the two veteran QBs have very much improved performances the second time around against this defense. And I think there's something to that. And the reason I left out Arizona is because I think that the Cardinals are a bit flipped. Anytime, and we've sort of grown accustomed to this as bettors, when there's a rookie quarterback making his first start against the defense, there's a lack of tape, there's a lack of knowledge, and they tend to have a lot more success rather than the second time around, especially within the division. We look at Kyler Murray, 7.6 yards per pass, 47% success rate, dropped to 3.5 and 41 in the second go-around. So that doesn't necessarily fit. But looking at the two veteran quarterbacks, in this case, Goff and Wilson, very much improved their second time around against this defense. So with LaFleur really putting an emphasis on revisiting what occurred in that first game, there's obviously a ton of familiarity with LaFleur having family on the 49ers side, him and Shanahan being such good friends. I think that this coaching matchup goes pretty deep, and there's going to be a lot of looking back at what happened. And very rarely does a team like pummel an opponent twice in the same manner within a season. And you can look through some of the best performances from teams in both conferences this year, and you see those divisional matchups, or that second time around, usually looks a lot different in how the game plays out. So it's a bit interesting from that regard to see that there's a lot of emphasis from the Packers coaching staff looking back. And when we look back as bettors and handicappers, there was a very clear case for Green Bay to be made matching up against the 49ers. Now, of course, San Francisco gets healthier this time around. They're a little more rested. They have the game in. They didn't have to do any travel this week. So from preparation standpoint, I think there's probably a lot more confidence with the 49ers being able to execute what they can. But this is really, it comes down to, again, like I was saying with the Kansas City-Tennessee game, like if you're just looking at numbers, there's really nothing that you can use that doesn't suggest that Green Bay is by far the worst playoff team as a whole going into this spot this weekend. So matched up against San Francisco, there's a clear divide there. But I think if we look on field, I don't expect it to look nearly as bad as what we saw last time. And Jimmy Garoppolo, again, back to the quarterback question, I don't know where you guys rank him, but I think it's a really slim margin between him and Tannehill for who's the worst starter remaining in the league. So as big as a coaching matchup, maybe in favor of the 49ers, I think the QB matchup very much in favor of the Packers in this spot. Jimmy G, in my opinion, the worst playoff performance of any quarterback so far this season last week, and it was very much disguised by his receivers in that spot where he was underthrowing guys. He had that one pass that was a duck floating to the sideline that he was saved with. Again, it's another little spot where if the Packers can generate pressure, we're looking at Garoppolo as one of the 8 worst passers in the NFL under pressure in terms of his passer rating. So gets interested to see how big of a drop-off when he's under pressure. There's spots where Green Bay can make things work on the field. I just don't know if there's really enough to get involved with the market.
Brad Allen, you want to come back in there, man?
Yeah, so one quick thing, well, lots of things to get to. One would be the sort of coaching tree that they came from. Obviously, LaFleur, as Adam said, was under Shanahan for a long time. I wonder if that leans us towards an under, perhaps, if they know all the wrinkles that they're going to try and roll out. You know, they can go and have a chat with their defensive coordinator and say he's going to try and run this off this and look for this and this formation, yada yada. I wonder if, and I get the second meeting between the two teams in the regular season in divisional games, that's normally an underlook. So I wonder if that would point us to the under if you want to wager on the total. I would say with regards to the quarterbacks, I don't know if Jimmy G is much worse than Rodgers at this point. You know, like QBR and yards per attempt this year, they would probably say Jimmy G is the better quarterback. Even if you strip out the benefits of the system, PFF has Rodgers 13th this year, or I think 12th among starters, and then Jimmy G just slightly worse. So there's not that much difference in them. And then I just think the rest of the team, like defensively, the Niners, yeah, we probably can expect Rodgers to improve as those other quarterbacks did, but they're also playing the Niners when they were unhealthy. So when they lost Jaquiski Tartt, Dean Ford, Quan Alexander, that's when they played them the second time and they improved. Well, they're all back, and they just held the Minnesota Vikings to 7 first downs. And I suspect they'll probably do quite similar here. You know, I'm not calling for another 34-point victory, but
no, it's probably going to, like, the Packers are going to make improvements if they lose that one by 29. I just wanted to show you guys one thing here on the screen here. Drew, we were talking a while ago about the lot of money they're available on the Titans. Look what we have here for the Packers. Just under 18,000 at plus 7.5. And if I look at my notes from earlier, I took a screenshot earlier, there actually was 23,000 there, and that was at 1 o'clock today, so it was 3 hours ago. So somebody's had a nibble on it. But like, we're on the wrong side and the other side, but somebody wants to take on the Packers here. Prof, is it you?
I'm on.
Some of it's yours. Some of it's yours.
I wonder if it's the same punter, given it's the very similar stake size posted up.
Possibly. I mean, look, guys, Prof, I'll stay with you for a second. Look, we're looking again at 7.5 here, right? I be honest, I kind of have it in my head that I want to back the 49ers -7. Now, obviously, we look further down. Again, it's a 1.9. Is it a major thing there, Prof, the 7 and the 7.5? I know it's the second most key number in the NFL, but what would you be thinking there if you're going to attack it? And let's be honest, we want to send the Packers home this weekend, don't we?
We do want to send them home. If you give me 30 seconds, I will look up the exact value of the 7 and get back to you.
Fair enough.
What do you think? A couple rebuttals, I guess, to some of the points. So number one, I get it that, yeah, this is the second time they've played in the season, and there should be some adjustments and there should be some ways to improve your performance if you're Green Bay. I will also point out that if there's been one coach who has been maybe the most underwhelming in-game adjuster over the course of this season, it's been Matt LaFleur. He has really struggled to like figure out like, oh, this is what I should be doing. He just kind of has a singular mindset of how to attack a team and just goes with it. So I don't know if I'm really crossing my fingers that he's got, you know, some key adjustment in his back pocket. Second thought is, you know, it's funny to say Adam thought Jimmy G's quarterback performance was the worst of the playoffs. He must have turned Must have turned the Bills game off at halftime because that Josh Allen down the stretch was just.
We forgot about him.
He was something to behold down the stretch there for the Bills. But yeah, no, and I get, like, obviously, like, somebody's out here and they want to support the more experienced quarterback in both of these games, and that makes total sense. And from a quarterback power rating standpoint, I agree that. Aaron Rodgers may be a tick above Jimmy G, but I would power rank the quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes number 1 with a bullet, and then the other 3 probably tied for last, and it's far, far, far behind. So I don't know that quarterback is really going to distinguish you here, especially because, if Green Bay finds themselves down, we've seen Rodgers has consistently late in his career had an inability to really be aggressive, take chances, make throws into tight windows. And especially if they can get good coverage on Devontae Adams, keep him from having wide open separation, then he's going to be even less inclined to take chances and be risky. He's a risk averse quarterback for whatever reason. And then the last thing I wanted to point out, as far as a rematch goes, to go against Brad's point, last time Kyle Shanahan made a run in the playoffs, we all remember, it was with the Falcons where he was the offensive coordinator. In that season, the Falcons played the Green Bay Packers in the regular season, beat them 33-32. They faced them in a rematch in the NFC title game, and they hung 44 on them. And it was one of the more impressive offensive performances that I can remember in the last handful of years. And
the funny one in that, Joe, I remember back, like, so many people were suckered in to taking the Packers. Were they getting 5.5, 6.5 in the conference final?
Yeah, I took the points. I think they were getting 7. Yeah, I took
7.5 at one point.
Yeah. So I think I got 7.5 actually. Yeah, I got 7.5. It closed to 7 or 6.5, and I was so happy with my number. I was like, it's like the Clemson Packers who had the early national title game. I was like, I got this beautiful number, like, no problem. And
then smoking Joe Burrow comes along and it destroys all their hopes.
It was never in play.
Prof, talk to me. 7.5. What are you thinking? So 2.06 minus 7.5, as you can see on the screen right now. We scroll down. -7 is at 1.9. What should I be taking here, Prof?
Yeah, so if the -7 is at -111 or 1.9ish as we got there, the fair line for the -7, or no, for the 7.5 would be 101.6. So if we're getting
2.06.
Yeah. No, as in 2.01.
Okay.
They're actually getting about 5 cents of value with the 2.06.
Okay. Interesting.
So 7.5, as I usually find, if you laying more points, you get slightly better value. But it's a tick or two, but worth it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, is that what you're going to do, Prof?
That's what I'll be doing.
That's what we're doing. Sending those Green Bay Packers home. Let's see if we got 1 or 2 comments in. Tom Beery. This is the chap who was in touch with the Kansas City ticket a couple weeks ago. There you go. Yeah, he was in touch with the Kansas City. So he's obviously very bullish at Kansas City. Tom Beery says, don't let recency bias affect us with the Titans. They are what they are, a lucky team on a roll. The wheels will come off in Kansas all over the Chiefs, destroying them. Oh, no, Tom, don't do what I used this word last week. Don't use the destroy word. It's going to come back and haunt us. I don't think you're disagreeing with Tom. Again?
No, not at all. 0% disagreement.
And just a bit of balance on that. John Honolulu's in touch with us on Twitter as well. I'm sure you all said the same about the Titans game last week. LOL. Absolutely bang on. Go on, Prof. Put them in their place.
Don't get me started on John, because the Titans got lucky last week. They might get lucky again. It doesn't mean the analysis is wrong.
Correct. I like it. Correct. I like it. Okay. Let's roll on, guys. Let's roll on to best.
The Ravens punted once. They punted once and scored 12 points. That doesn't happen.
I know, it's crazy. They just just panicked. And Joe, you said it on the Deep Dive podcast. This is not a team to be jumping off their bandwagon next year. That's one game.
The grave dancing on Lamar Jackson after one performance where every high leverage coin flip went against him was like, are you serious? Like, really? Like, this is the reaction to this? Give me a break. And oh, by the way, like, Harbaugh got a full on pass for some pretty poor game planning, in my opinion, and some pretty poor situational decision making. I don't know 100% what was going on with Harbaugh in that game, but it was not his finest day. And the Titans had the juice.
Yeah, absolutely. Massive sample size there for this season. That's not all just going to disappear next year. And I think to the best of my knowledge, they don't lose too much in free agency either, so they'll have a lot of guys back. Right, conference championships, best bets. Adam Chernoff, kick us off.
KC first half, and I'll go KC full game as well. -4 and then -7.
Ooh, double it up. No messing about. Okay, Drew Dinsick.
I'm gonna get involved in this under in the KC game. I'm gonna take the first half though. 24.5 under first half. I think Tennessee does not try to get aggressive. They learned the lessons that the Titans, that the defensive coordinators around the league learned. We're not going to put KC under pressure and force them to be their most optimal selves out of the gate here and get buried early. So they play ball control. They play a little keep away, kill the clock in the first half, and this comes in under 24.5. I also in the San Francisco game, I really like their team total over. It's going to be about 26.5. I'm not sure if that's up yet on Matchbook.
Not up yet, no, but 24.5. Sorry, couldn't cross you, Drew. 24.5. Good shade of odds against there. 2.01. Nice.
Perfect.
24-0 halftime lead for KC.
That won't surprise me in a bit.
What was the other? Sorry, Drew, I cut across your mind. What was the bet in the San Francisco game?
Oh, I like their team total over 26.5.
Cool. Stays well under that crucial 27.5, 28.5. Brad Allen, what do you think of my best bet?
Give me the Niners -7.5 odds against.
Prof, I can't disagree, mate. It was my best one as well, so I'm going with you. I think they, I think they like to throw them. I'll be honest, I do like the Chiefs as well. I'm a bit sketchier about them, and that's just kind of a mark of respect to the Titans. I know that's I don't like this Green Bay team, and I think they're going to get found out. They should have got found out last week. They're going to get found out this week. So, guys, what we could be doing, should we not be just throwing all of our money on the double here this weekend, no?
Man.
It's going to be short.
Well, you have skepticism on KC. There's still time to come over, and then the double makes a lot of sense.
What have we got at the moment? It's short enough, guys. It's short enough right now. It's 1.6, 1.63. It's a lot to be giving up, isn't it?
It's priced in really a little bit.
Yeah, and money line double.
What?
Yeah. Well, they're both 1 to 3 shots. So
yeah.
Can we put an ACA together of -2.5s? Yeah, absolutely can. That probably gets you plus money.
There you go. Yeah, teasing it up. There you go. That's the alternatives, guys. Absolute pleasure. Anything else, guys, we should be looking at bet wise over the weekend, Prof? It's a bit early for all the prop bets. Anything else that we should be looking out for?
I do not have anything for you yet. I'll tweet out a few with the link to this when we get there.
Good man.
Keep an eye out for Mahomes alternate over 684 yards. Give me a 10-1.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Right, guys, that's it. We're out of time. We are done until the Super Bowl. It's hard to say it, guys. 3 more games left. 3 more games left. It's tough going. We'll be back, thinking the Wednesday before the Super Bowl. We'll also be doing a prop special on the Friday of the Super Bowl. So we'll have plenty to keep you entertained, and hopefully we get you back in the winners enclosure, because guys, we got to get the Titans beaten, we got to get the Packers beaten, and then we're back in the black, and we will have a 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, and I think we'll all be happy campers. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we will talk to you next weekend.